So former President Barack Obama is on the campaign trail right now helping VP Harris as we have less than 30 days left up into this election. Depending on the polls you've been looking at, right now, it is so close. This upcoming election is going to be crazy. Before we begin, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you're notified whenever I post a new video. Follow me on my social media. We are on the road to 100,000 subscribers. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Amen. Amen. So today we're going to watch a video of former President Barack Obama. He's pretty much having a conversation with black men in regards to how they aren't showing up for VP Harris this upcoming election, or how the polls are really swaying towards Donald Trump in regards to the black male vote. We're gonna watch it and then I'm gonna tell you my thoughts on this because I have a lot to say. It's a level of frustration that I do have when it comes to this, mainly because I think that people are always tokenizing the black vote. Like, let's watch this and then we're gonna vent.
When I hear about this stuff, I start feeling like we don't have enough of a sense of what's at stake here. These aren't ordinary times, and these are not ordinary elections. You're lucky Michelle's not here. She really talking serious about this stuff. So, but here's the good news, right? The good news is that not only as Attorney General and as a senator and as a vice president and now as the nominee for the Democratic Party, Kamala has made us proud.
All right.
Two things. When he says, okay, these are the two things. Number one, whenever he says, I don't think people realize what is at stake, my response to that is, if so much was at stake, why didn't we do it correctly the first time? And I say that because in the beginning, whenever I've been saying that when President Joe Biden got in the seat, they should have been prepping who they wanted next, who he wanted to pass the baton to. They should have been putting a lot of options of candidates in our faces. But the moment he said he's running for re-election, that is whenever I knew, if y'all aren't taking it serious, the American people or the Democratic voters aren't going to take it serious. And to see everything unfold, and for her to become the presidential nominee, and people are still having questions, how did she become the nominees just through delegates when they never had an actual primary? And to be scolded as if we're children, I'm not even gonna say we, as if they're children, that frustrates me. That does frustrate me. I think no matter how, whether you agree with how the vast majority of a demographic votes or not is one thing, but I don't think that it is fair to then point fingers specifically on only black men as if they are obligated to vote a certain way. Because if that's the case, if we're holding a level of, if we're going to hold them to an obligation to vote a certain way, why do we call it democracy? Me personally, I have never learned from someone who's agreed with me. I think that is why God continues to fulfill me with wisdom and knowledge each and every day, and be able to have conversations, be able to give me the level of emotional maturity to have conversations with people that disagree with me. With that mindset, I don't have you have to do A, B, and C type of mindset. And I think that is something that is being hovered over specifically black men, specifically right now. We keep seeing it more and more. It's like, why aren't black men showing up for VP Harris? Why aren't black men doing this? Why aren't black men, like, they're supposed to be voted for VP Harris? She's black, he's black. It's just like, what? That's like entitlement. And it makes me uncomfortable. I don't like that. And it's not fair and it's not right. Because if it was vice versa, if it was, I wouldn't even say if it was Trump, take him out the equation. If anybody else who is a Republican were fixing their mouth to say stuff like that, we would not be having it. I just don't think it's fair for not even Barack Obama, but people in general in the Democratic Party to scold specifically black women or black men into doing something that they may not want to do, or maybe they have reasons not to do so. That's equivalent to Joe Biden pretty much saying, you're not black if you don't vote for me. Like, what are we doing here? Instead of using this as a teachable moment, like, okay, let's meet them where they're at. What is something that we are lacking within the Democratic Party that we can provide, that we can offer this upcoming election? What is missing? Why are black men so distant from VP Harris right now? What is it that we are doing on our end? But instead, it's like this scolding mentality.
Charles, Rev, we need to talk about this because I hear what Barack Obama is saying, and I wonder if it's going to get through to black men in this election. What do you think
But why
the
should it?
challenges are in this election with Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee?
Well, Mika, I think first and foremost, we have to understand that there is, in many respects, a generational divide that is showing itself in a lot of the polling that we've seen, a lot of the numbers that we're seeing in terms of where the apathy is showing up, where the potential for Democrats to lose votes or not get people to the polls is most evident in black men under the age of 50.
And why?
I think that's because there's a different understanding or different sense of whether the Democratic Party has spoken directly to them. I think that people have looked at the gains and the progress that has been made, and they say, for example, as I talk about in my piece, I'm still last. I'm still last with respect to unemployment. I'm still last with respect to many of the indexes that I use to measure my quality of life, whether that's actual life expectancy, i.e. healthcare. I'm still having a wealth disparity when I look at my white counterparts. I still have a problem accessing the American dream, if you will. And so when you're talking about staying the course, it becomes difficult for a younger black man who has said, well, I've seen more Democrats in office than I have Republicans. And that doesn't mean that I'm going for Donald Trump. It just means that I may withdraw from the system as a whole. So this is a really big problem. And let me say,
and that's the unfortunate part, because it's like, I used to be so like, you gotta vote, you gotta vote, you gotta vote, which I 100% believe. I still believe you have to vote, you have to vote. But I used to be to the point where I would get mad at people who did not vote. When you grow and you talk to these people and you fully understand their situations and circumstances, and they feel as if there is no point for them to take off work to cast their ballot just to have the same result, it changes your perspective. It genuinely changes your perspective. So what he is talking about, how why are black men not voting for Harris? Them not voting for Harris doesn't automatically mean, oh, I'm voting for Trump. But it's almost as if they're saying, like, we've done this time and time and time and time and time again. We haven't gotten the results that we are wanting. So I think it is not even from a strategy standpoint, from a humane standpoint, that would have been a better angle for Barack Obama to have these conversations with these black men. Have a round table or something and understand where that disconnect is, instead of saying, no, y'all don't understand what's at stake. I think a lot of people understand like how serious this upcoming election is. I truly believe people understand how serious this upcoming election is. I truly believe. I just think that the standard is higher. The standard is higher. Just being black is not enough for a lot of black folks. It's just not.
very quickly, it's actually not fair to put this on Kamala Harris's shoulders at this moment, because she just walked into this and this has been going on for quite a while.
No, I totally understand what you're saying.
I agree with that last part.
These were normal times. I just, Rev, are women gonna have to do all the work? I mean, well, I'm having a hard time not having tremendous respect for what Charles just said, like in a big way. That's very real. At the same time, this is a man who promises retribution against his enemies. He promises a day of violence to solve crime, okay? He lies about innocent legal migrants, black people, likening them to animals, okay? That's just in the past few weeks. So I need to understand how...
This is the thing. You see how she's naming like the negatives of Trump? And this is not me advocating for Trump. But when you're naming so much negatives about a person and he is still leading in a lot of major polls and he is still leading in some of these swing states, at what point do you stop looking at the person and start looking at yourself? Because it's almost like it is so easy to just point and point and point. Donald Trump is this, Donald Trump is that, Donald Trump is this. We all know what Donald Trump is. The problem is not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is I wouldn't say the problem is not Donald Trump. The problem is not what Donald Trump is at this point. People, we already know what he is. He's one of those, whether you like him or you don't. At this point, you have to look at yourself. Why do people prefer this monster future Hitler that you've described him as before VP Harris or before Joe Biden, whenever he was the nominee? Why do people prefer that more than you? If I was in VP Harris's position, or if I was Joe Biden, if I was a presidential nominee in the Democratic Party and I was receiving like not enough support, or I felt like I was not receiving enough support or consistency within people that look like me, that's a step back that I have to look at myself like, okay, there is a disconnect that I have with my own community. Let me address that before I start pointing fingers at him. Because pointing the fingers at Donald Trump isn't doing anything. I'm sorry, it's not doing anything. From a politically strategic standpoint, it is not doing anything.
How black male voters are processing this versus, I think, black female voters who might say, you cannot vote for this man.
Well, I think that the real problem is communication and talking to black men, young black men, older black men about the record. The fact of the matter is, not only did Donald Trump do all of what you said, Donald Trump did everything he could against young black men, which is why I'm on tour with the Central Park Five now. He called for them to be executed. Young black men get in trouble, they call.
That's okay. I agreed with him on the communication, but I disagree with him on the form of communication he is trying to come across with the black man. This goes back to my main point. Stop saying what he is doing. Stop saying Donald Trump did A, B, and C. Everybody knows that. That is not where the disconnect is. The disconnect is the communication where, what are you going to do? What do you have to offer? What are you promising the people? Because when you keep saying what he's doing wrong, it sounds like a scapegoat. All right, so I'm gonna stop it there. I just think that, number one, you can't coddle. I feel like just the concept of just scolding like black men, oh, you have to vote for me, you have to vote for VP Harris. It's just like, it's giving very much coddling. Like, I feel like they're grown. Everyone is grown. Like, let them vote how they please and vote how they feel, what they feel is the best situation for them, their family, their state, this country, etc. We have that option. So being scolded on the fact that vast majority of black men aren't showing up for Harris or not showing up in Harris in numbers that they should be, I just don't think, like, what are we doing? You can't continue to maneuver in a way of just naming everything bad that they did and not looking at yourself and saying, what are you going to offer? What are they going to hold on to? If you're just communicating things that Trump has done in the past, we already have access to that information. Black men already have access to that information. They hear it on the news every 1 to 2 business days, every top of the hour at that. Like, that's not the form of communication you need. The communication you need is strategy, policy strategy. What are you going to do with people that look like me? What are you going to do with my people in my community? What are you going to do that's going to help my state? Like, what are you going to do? That is what's missing. And that's where the disconnect is, because black men are probably feeling like, hey, I have nothing to gain from VP Harris being in the office. So why would I go out and show out for her? Now, we can argue some of her policy plans may benefit black men, but if that's not being communicated to them, then what do you expect? Like, what do we expect? I think we have to use our brain. I think we've gone to the point where people just maneuver so much in feelings that they allow their feelings to block their logic. Use your knowledge, use wisdom. I really, really want y'all to pray this upcoming election. Ask God for guidance, ask God for discernment. Because that is literally what I am doing. Like, pray and pray, pray. Pray, because I'm telling you, But let me know your thoughts on the comments down below. What do you think? Do you think it's wrong for black men to be singled out when it comes to this upcoming election? Do you think it's fair for people to feel entitled for the black vote? What do you think? Comment down below. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you're notified whenever I post a new video. Follow me on my social media. I love y'all all. We are on the road to 100K subscribers. We thank God each and every day. This is Uduak, connecting people with policy. Toodles!